Okay, once again, it's Monday morning. We're going to go into some of the things that we're going to try to go over this week and talk about some tips which could help you get to where you want to get to. Now, if you notice, I'm wearing a Canada shirt today. Just to let you know, Canada does have some great universities. I have family up there, so with Canada being close neighbors of us, I've always had something in my heart for the Canadian people. So we're going to talk today about your ideal school, and we talk about this topic we always hear about: ideal schools and prestigious schools. Now, what makes a school prestigious? I guess graduation rates, status of alumni, cost, location. There are a lot of things that make a school prestigious. Some schools are prestigious in more areas than others. So let's say, for example, there might be some prestigious engineering schools, but that same university, they might not be as prestigious in, let's say, psychology, for example. All right. So prestige comes on a general level, and then also maybe on a subject or a major level. All right. And this is what I say when you're looking at these schools. You want to see what you want to study and figure out which school has the best program for what you want to do. Now, when we look at some of the other schools, some schools have are generally just good schools. They have a good liberal arts curriculum. Now, when we say liberal arts, we mean just like a general college curriculum. You take your philosophies and your maths and your things like that. And there are some schools that are specifically, just liberal arts colleges. A lot of Ivies like this. A lot of small Ivies like this. They're like liberal arts colleges, and generally most people from those schools end up going on to do some sort of graduate school or med school or something like that. Some schools actually have some innovative grading policies, all right, and test taking policies. So, for example, we look at a college like Swarthmore College, for example. Swarthmore College, for their freshmen that come in, the first semester is pass-fail only. They're not graded, it's pass-fail. They want you to go through the first semester to see if you even fit in with the climate of their students and faculty. So they give you a semester to get your act together. And let's say after that semester, you pass-fail, they decide if you want or not. They're going to tell you if you're going to stay or you're going to go. They're going to say, yep, get out of here. You're not working. So, but most likely if you go there and you do well, you will succeed. So a lot of these schools, they're concentrating on building up the person as a whole, a well-rounded education, because they feel a well-rounded education is really going to get you places in life. All right. Whether it's worth it or not depends on how much you plan to pay out your pocket. I personally feel, and you know me, I'm cheap. So I feel that I know that there's so many scholarships that are around that people simply just don't want to take advantage of. All right. And I hate to see people leave money on the table, but there's so much money that gets left on the table with these scholarships. All right. You can't leave money on the table. All right. So back to prestige. It hits different when you tell somebody you went to Harvard, or if you tell me you went to Temple University. Both great schools, but Harvard is a bit more prestigious. Does that mean you're going to get the job? Who knows? However, there is some bragging rights that come with some of these large name schools. My issue is when people use these bragging rights and these names of these big schools to trump everything. Like that just matters over anything, because guess what? You can go to Harvard, you can go to Princeton, you can go to Yale, you can go to Dartmouth, you can go to Brown, you can go to Cornell, and you could get a low grade, and you get low grades. So if you're coming out of a high level school with a 2.9, let's say 3.0, as opposed to somebody who came out of Temple University with a 4.0, who would you hire if you were an employee? Okay, maybe you went to the rich school and you got, you got in because your daddy was on the board or your parents went there. All right, so it's not all about prestige. All right. We noticed that some of these prestigious schools, they do offer a lot of money. So one thing about private schools, I tell students, do not shy away from private schools. Do not pay attention to that tag. What you need to do is pay attention to see what kind of aid they offer. We did a nice interviewed a nice analysis the other day of Cooper Union, which is in New York. Now, Cooper Union is about maybe $45,000 a year, $46,000 a year, which isn't bad. But all incoming freshmen, get 50% tuition off. They get a 50% scholarship. You just have to worry about finding the others. And I do believe that there's plenty of money out there without you having to go into debt, getting all these loans and things like that, which personally I think are criminal. I have my own personal beliefs and ways of going against these student loans, but I think that there's so much money out there that we don't have to use these loans, or if we just do some budgets. And I'm giving this warning to parents as well as students. There are opportunities out there for your kids to go to school free, or if not free, close to free. One of the major reasons is one of the main ways is for you or your student, your son, your daughter to continue getting great grades. Good grades equals less money that you have to pay. Bottom line. But if your son kind of crawled through schools with D's, F's, and then all of a sudden he's talking about he wants to go to UCLA or he wants to go to University of Texas, things like that. He could barely do it in his home country, in his own language. How does he think that he's going to be able to go overseas and do well? How does he think it's going to happen? Being away from his family, being away from people that are going to monitor him. And you have to understand, when you're outside the country, you're not being monitored. You're not being monitored by your family. You don't have to worry about the curfew. Your mama wants you about 10 o'clock, you're overseas. And sometimes that freedom will kill a student. So you definitely have to understand what the parameters are and how to stay within them. Okay. So I say that to say that there are, and I mention this all the time, and I say this every video. You're probably like, we heard this already. Right, fine. But I'm telling you, there are over 4,000 universities out there, colleges and universities in America, 4,000 of them. One is for you. All right. The top ones might not be for you, but there may be a few that are for you. All right. Overall happiness, location. Where do you want to be? City, suburbs, rural. What's the difference between these? And what do you like? Do you have to be in the big city? I did a lecture the other day about the benefits of living in New York City, because New York City is a big city, a lot of things going on. So I did the pros and the cons of that, not just as a student, but because I'm a native of New York City. So I know the ins and outs of New York City a little bit. It's changed a bit since I've been there, but for the most part, New York is a big city. It's been a big city for a few hundred years now. So the thing is, you have to understand what comes with the big city: the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that was the name of the lecture: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Other big cities: Chicago, Los Angeles, large cities, large schools. But then just another thing is what I tell people, and I think this is kind of like where the sweet spot is that you have some cities that have little towns outside the city so you can get there. So, for example, you may go to school in New York City. You may live in New York City, but maybe you go to school like in, I don't know, let's say a community outside New York, like maybe like a Mount Vernon or a New Rochelle or some places in Long Island, like a Hempstead, where you're close to the city, but you get kind of like nice, relaxed living. For me personally, that's the best for me. I like to be able to look outside and see the moon and the stars. But if I have to run to meet somebody in the city, I can just jump in the car and be there in 15 minutes. For me, that's perfect. Other people, they don't want to see any of that stuff. All right. Please do research of these states you're going to. There's a reason why some of these states have a lot of people. Don't have a lot of people or have a lot of people. So, for example, you look at some states like South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Utah. In some of these states, they're far and they're cold. And you also have to check out situations about diversity. So you start talking about you're going to North Dakota and South Dakota. A lot of Americans don't even live in South Dakota, North Dakota. Nice places when I hear great scenery, great wildlife, but you're concerned about things such as diversity. You're looking for, you're overseas, you're looking for a halal meat shop or a place to worship, things like that. You think you're going to find that in Fargo, North Dakota? Perhaps, but it's going to be on a smaller level. Now, the good thing about that is that there are a lot of campuses that are kind of like self-contained cities. So, for example, I went to a school where the campus, most of the people in the town came from the campus. They lived in that town. They lived on the campus. So the students, there were about 4,000 students on campus. There were about 3,000 people in the town. So all the amenities are on the campus. All the amenities are on the campus. So you want to make sure that when you're looking at these campuses, see what amenities are on the campus. Are there restaurants on the campus? Are there coffee shops? Are there places to hang out? What are the sports activities like? One of my kids, the school they went to, the school had a shopping center on campus, or it was close enough, and they had shuttle buses which took them from there to go do the shopping and stuff. So for the students that didn't have a car, it was good for them. A lot of these campuses, the schools, they want to make sure you're as comfortable as possible. That way you go there, you graduate, you go into the next level, la, la, la. That's what they want. So they're going to try to make those campuses as easy and accessible to you as possible. Now, of course, the more money the campus has, the more they're able to do that for you. You'll even notice that when I was doing the introductions and I was doing the reviews of some of the colleges, and I started with a few. Go check these out. We did one on Hofstra University, a real good one. We did one on a few others. Hofstra, Georgetown, NYU, and I think we also did Cooper Union. So 4 very different colleges, universities with different ways that they approach the international students. Some say that we don't offer any scholarships for international students. Some say we offer partially but not full. Excuse me. You could tell that some actually go out their way to attract international students. Some have high acceptance rates. Some have low acceptance rates. So, go over some of those and then figure out which it is, because what might be good for domestic students might not necessarily be good for you. See if you could check out the population. Are there a lot of students that go to this school from your country, or at least from your region? Are you able to go get a shawarma or a good slice of pizza when you want to? Are you going to be able to find peers that are close to you? Are there people from your town, your village, your country that have gone to the school and have come back to your country and had some success? And what are their experiences? So I always say that, let's say, for example, if you live in Venezuela, or if you live in Qatar, for example, and if you know some people from your town that went to school in America, maybe now, a few years ago, whatever, go and maybe ask them about what their experience was like. How was it? Yay, nay, what do you think? And get advice. What happens is that too many times people are afraid to talk to people. They're afraid, they're shy to ask for advice. And we have to get past that, because they can give you some valuable advice that will make you decide whether you want to go or not. And I say that, classic example, I lived in UAE for 5 years. Okay, 5 years. Before I went, I was getting mixed reviews before I went to live there. I lived in Abu Dhabi for 5 years. All right, Alain, 5 years. All right, great experience. Now, if I listen to any idiot from around the way, like, don't go over there, it's this, don't go over there, it's too hot, this, that, I make it a point not to ask people things that don't know what they're talking about. And you have to get into that habit too. Stop asking fools about advice they don't know nothing about. All right? Also, let's look at what we're looking at in terms of major. Are you looking to be an engineer? Are you looking to be a doctor? Are you sure? All right? Are you getting a lot of pressure from your parents? Are you getting a lot of pressure from your society? All right, it can be like that. We talked about the other day, a guy he's going and he's studying for engineering, and he wants to be an engineer. His father's an engineer, his mother's an engineer, and the girl is going to marry an engineer, and so are her parents. All right, now he has so much pressure to be an engineer, he don't even want to do it. So you really have to look at that as well, because you're going to be the one that has to live with that. All right, so these are some of our early Monday morning tips here. Let's go through, review some of our applications, review some of our essays, review some of the locations we say we want to study at. We're in July right now, so we're kind of closing in on next school year. Most likely, if you're listening to this now and you haven't picked up any applications, or you haven't applied for anything, you're probably looking towards next year. Also, you want to check to see what date the school that you're applying to has admissions. Are they admitting only in fall semester? Are they admitting only in spring? Some schools only admit international students during one time a year, only during fall. Some people do twice a year, believe it or not. I came across some of those. Also, reviewing to see which one of your schools are on the Common App. If you have 10 of your schools that are on the Common App, that's a great thing for you. Okay, because remember the Common App, you fill out one application, do a couple of essays, and you're done. You're just clicking a button. Click, 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 and then you're in. All right, so that Common App is very valuable, but there's some schools that don't go by the Common App. All right, Georgetown University is one of them. They don't go by the Common App. I don't think so. I mean, but they don't go by the Common App, and there are a few others that don't. You have to apply for them separately. It seems that the magic number for college fees are about $75. When I was young, it was like $25, but I'm seeing more and more schools that charge $75. If you don't have the money, just send a message to admissions and say, hey, listen, I really don't have the money to apply for these fees. Is there a way that I can get this waived? Sometimes they do. I do it. Why? Because I'm always looking for shortcuts. And if you're talking about applying to 10 schools, and 10 schools is $75, that's $750. And so you might want to check that out. Check out the schools that have free application fees. All right, and in your schools, and we're going to have a nice long class on this. Make sure that you're keeping in contact with your advisor, with your guidance advisor. Now, some of these advisors that are there, some of these guidance counselors, they're not worth anything. They don't help you find any schools. They don't know anything about international studies. So, you can't rely solely on that lady in the office who's trying to get you in school. You have to do your own due diligence, because 9 times out of 10, she don't know what she's talking about as well. All right, so you need to make sure that you're on that. And if you're a parent watching that, you can't leave it up to the school and everybody else to get your kids into these universities. You have to do your own research. You have to go through and do the digging, because no one's going to do the digging for you. All right, and you have some schools that actually, and I've seen this in some international schools, they actually discourage kids from going to study in other countries. Why? I don't know, but they actually discourage them. Or maybe if they know that your kid is smart, he wants to go somewhere, they'll try to talk you down into going to these other places. Now, I do feel that everybody has to go through and figure out where they have to fit in, but that's a decision that you need to make with your family. So let's take the initiative and get on these things early. Remember, we always talked about that, getting on these things early. It's a new week. It's on Monday. Manic Monday. We want to get in here and knock all these things out. And then by the end of the week, we should have a checklist saying, okay, this is what we did. This is what we've accomplished. Even if you only do it for 5 minutes a day, I'd rather you spend 5 to 10 minutes a day on these things, instead of spending like an hour one day and then not touching it back for another couple hours. All right, these schools aren't going to pick up and call you unless you got a jump shot or you're the next Cristiano Ronaldo. They're not going to be calling down your door every 2 minutes. You have to pretty much go through there and prove what you can offer them. All right, and that's very important at this stage right here. All right, so freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors in college, we really need to get down and get this thing going. I'm sure there's a university out there for you, and I'm going to help you get there. And it's there, right? It's there, but you have to want it. And maybe the university that you wanted to go to might not accept you, but there are other universities out there which could do the same job, if not better. But you're not going to know about these schools unless you do your research. You're not going to know about the Hofstra universities. You're not going to know about the Maryland Eastern Shores. You're not going to know about the Morgan State universities. You're not going to know about Hampton University. You're not going to know about Chestnut Hill College. You won't know about these things because you're not hearing them. You're just hearing these big name schools. All right, so we're out of here. We'll check back a little bit later on. Hopefully you guys have been able to get through some of these things, and these videos just aren't to watch. These videos are for you to go through and actually do some action. It's not just to sit there and just watch it. You got to do some action. All right, let's go.